Welcome back to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. Thank you for tuning in this evening. We have a lot of stuff we have to discuss today. Eric Adams is on the chopping block because he is not agreeing with immigrants coming into New York City after he claimed New York was a safe haven for immigrants. Now he's changed his tune that he basically threatened the city of New York, saying, hey, we must cut some city programs by 5% because immigration will ruin this city. And after he made this announcement, he got a lot of backlash. So much backlash, they're calling him the Black Trump. Oh, they quickly turned on Eric Adams. They are calling this man the Black Trump. So we'll discuss that story today. And we have some other things we want to discuss. I guess Minneapolis, a representative in Minneapolis, she got beat up. She's a stern supporter of defund the police. She's an Indian lady. Chawanne Burns. That's how you pronounce her name. I'm pronouncing it phonetically, but it's probably not pronounced like that. But anyway, she's the vice chair of the Democrat political party in Minnesota, and she was robbed at gunpoint. But something is fishy about her story, so we'll discuss that as well. And then Ron DeSantis, he's drawn a line in the sand about COVID mandates. Since COVID is rearing its ugly head, we discussed that several times during this show. Ron DeSantis, he's not with it. He's gonna go what he was doing last COVID mandates, and it's a free for all. He's not abiding by no federal laws or federal rules. He's not making people wear masks, and of course, the liberals are mad. They are mad at his stance because he's the governor of Florida and he's saying no to the mandates, and liberals are mad as hell about that. So we'll discuss that today. So first, let's get to our first story. Eric Adams. We discussed Eric Adams before a couple of days ago, and you probably already seen this particular clip, but this is from NBC. I'm going to play some of the clip, but I really want you guys to take a look at, I really wanted to discuss this opinionated article from NBC. It's really crazy. And you could tell this guy is a liberal nut job the way he worded this article. So we are, let me make sure you can see this. Yeah. Where's my...
I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
An urgent message from New York City Mayor Eric Adams as the number of migrants who have arrived in the city since last April hits 110,000. The influx has strained resources, with Mayor Adams estimating the crisis could cost potentially $12 billion over the next 3 years. To help counter that, he's asking every city agency to reduce spending by up to 15% in the coming months. President Biden is facing calls to take federal action from Mayor Adams and New York Governor Kathy Hochul, as well as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who are facing a migrant crisis of their own. We reached out to the White House for a comment, and they provided a list of actions it's taken, including assisting the state and city of New York with more than $140 million in federal funding this year, as well as the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago with more than $45 million. Joining me now is the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams. Mayor Adams, thank you for coming back to the Sunday show. Yesterday, you warned.
And let me interrupt. You see that they're funding this engineered crisis. This is an engineered problem. They put together this problem. We wouldn't have this problem if they wouldn't allow Title 42 to expire. Can you what? Another 45 minutes. What are you trying to do? Okay, okay. I'll tell you when I get done. That's my son. He's kind of sick. Okay, so anyway, it's an engineer problem. We wouldn't have this problem if they wouldn't allow Title 42 to expire, but they did. President Biden could have put something in place, even an executive order, because Title 42 was an executive order. He could have extended this executive order, but anything to do with Trump is bad. They wanted to get Trump name off of everything. So that's why they allowed this Title 42 to expire. And that's why we have this immigration crisis. So you're spending $1 billion. You already provided $1 billion through grant programs, $600 million in shelter and services, $140 million to New York City. And then you're saying $45 million in federal aid through the DHS. That's not enough. And that's what they're trying to tell you, because you got a constant flow of migrants that's coming in and they are not working. So you let them in here, you got to take care of them, because it's some type of, it's your responsibility, because you should have turned them away at the border. And these are illegal immigrants. These are not the legal ones. These are illegal immigrants that came over to the country without permission. Okay, so you got this problem, engineer problem, and you're saying that you spent this amount of money. Is that enough? Apparently not. It's not enough, because you have Eric Adams saying it's going to cost $3 billion or $12 billion over the next 3 years if they don't fix the migration crisis. And they're not. They're going to leave the borders open until we vote somebody else in there that's brave enough. Maybe they'll sign another executive order that's brave enough to fix the migration problem. So I just wanted you guys to know that this is an engineered problem.
Mayor of New York City, Eric Adams. Mayor Adams, thank you for coming back to the Sunday show. Yesterday, you warned agency heads they must slash their budgets by 15% by next spring to compensate for the increasing costs of the migrant crisis. Is this a way to put pressure on New York State and the federal government? What was your thought process in making this decision?
No, not at all. And first of all, I'm glad you played that clip at the top of this conversation, because there's a clear distortion that my comments were anti-immigrant, anti-migrant. The Trump Republicans are trying to use it as such, which is not true. And then even the far left is trying to use it as anti-immigrant. We've done more than our share. Over 110,000 migrants have arrived in the city, 60,000 still remaining in our care. And the announcement we made yesterday is stating that we have to go and do several rounds of finding cost efficiency, 5%, 3 times in a row. That's 15%. We've already spent, and this year we're going to spend up to $5 billion. Think about that for a moment. Getting $140 million on a $5 billion national price tag is not acceptable. And these efficiencies are going to come from communities that are already struggling, communities that are in need, predominantly Black and brown communities. This is wrong for the migrants to go through this, and it's wrong for longstanding New Yorkers that are struggling to go through this.
So
But who's going to be brave enough to say, no, Americans first? Who's going to be brave enough? No, Americans first. You're trying to take care of everybody, and you can't. You absolutely cannot take care of everybody, especially if your social services is already strained with the American citizens that you have today in your population. We do have Drink Coaster. He's on Twitch. He said the border is not open. I don't know where you've been at, Drink Coaster, under a rock somewhere, but the border is clearly open. Clearly open. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Anticipated the next question I was going to ask. You think the $140 billion is insufficient. So let me ask you about something else you've asked from the Biden administration. You've asked them to expand temporary protected status to migrants, which would enable them to look for work and expedite the process of applying for asylum. The president's been reluctant to do so. Why do you think President Biden isn't ready to take that action?
I cannot quite explain that, but I do know this: the precursor to sleep that allows us to experience the American dream is our right to work.
I know why he's reluctant to do that, because you might not agree with this, but Biden is prejudiced. He don't want people over here in the country either. He fears the backlash, just like that guy is missing that they're searching for. They didn't really check these people at the border. They said, oh, okay, they probably did a whatever check. I don't know, like a soft scan. I don't know what that's called. But they let that one guy over here. A lot of illegal immigrants are over here, and they don't know how to control the situation. And then they don't know how to find these people. Just that one guy, he was in custody. He was convicted of a crime. The guy we was talking about yesterday, I think his name is Cantaleo or something like that. But he was from Brazil, and he killed somebody, and he escaped the county jail, and he's been on the run for about 10 days. But they didn't tell you he killed somebody in Brazil and came over here. He was wanted for murder in his home country, and you guys let him in over here. He got in somehow illegally through the border, ended up in Philly, probably got busted in Philly, and now he's missing. Probably about to kill some more people. So that's why Biden hasn't acted on that.
Every immigrant that has arrived at our shores had the ability to absorb oneself into our society by the right to work. This is so anti-American to tell people they have to come here anywhere from up to 2 years sometimes and not be able to provide for themselves. And I agree with the Chicago mayor, the mayor of Los Angeles, of Houston, of the governor of Massachusetts. All of us are saying a national problem should not be placed on the backs of everyday Americans. No city should be going this. And that's going through this, including El Paso and Brownsville.
Well, Mayor, let me get your thoughts on some criticism on the right, because critics on the right have noted that New York City is a sanctuary city, and this migrant crisis comes with that territory. What do you say to those who think you relinquish your right to complain about the stresses it places on your city because of that?
Well, I think that those comments coming from those far-right Trump-like Republicans who are continue to try to distort the reality that we do not have real immigration reform, that we should allow a true decompression strategy, protect our borders in the right way, and make sure that when you look at this city, the status of right to shelter, of no one who created this decades ago took into account that we were talking about hundreds of thousands of people potentially coming to the city. So,
like I said, engineer problem. This is a problem. You could very well say, oh, I was about to say Earth is closed today. No, you could very well say the U.S. is closed for today. We are no longer accepting aliens in our country. Earth is closed today. Remember Iron Man? In what is that? that movie Avengers Endgame, and the people came in, and our man was like, sorry, I don't care what you're looking for or disclose today. That's what we need to do until we get it situated. And then we need, okay, if you want to be sentimental, send them back to their own country. Provide buses and send them back. However, send them back to their own country. Because I'm pretty sure they left houses and stuff. And liberals will say war-torn countries, but I haven't heard any wars going on in Venezuela. Is there a war going on in Venezuela? I know it's like a communist country, but come on now. You know, why put a strain on the American people? Because you have a bleeding heart. And you just want to let anybody in that's causing ruckus. Anyway.
We are in court now, and we are looking at how do we properly address the issue of right to shelter and dealing with this humanitarian crisis of an epic proportion.
And some Republican leaders initiated this crisis by busing migrants to Democratic-led cities like New York.
No. Okay, so is this just a Republican problem? I thought we was all in this together. Oh, the Republicans busted people to Democratic-led cities. No, you said you was asylum haven, safe haven for asylum seekers. So why not share the problem? And literally, Greg Abbott, he's not busting all the people that they letting in at the border. I know that for a fact. He's not busting all the people that they're letting in at the border. He's bearing some of the weight. So why can't you bear some of the weight?
And now they're using it for more political gain by highlighting your critical comments of the president. Do you have any trepidations about the political fallout New York Democrats may face in 2024 if this crisis isn't mitigated?
I had a conversation yesterday with Congressman Jeffries, the minority leader of the Democratic Party, a Democratic congressional delegation, and he was clear as well. We know how severe this issue is to not only the city of New York, but the state of New York. New York City is the economic engine of this entire state, and we need a decompression strategy in the state as well as in the city. And I'm elected for one purpose, and that is to protect the people of New York City. And this is impacting the amazing recovery we witnessed after COVID. Our economic recovery, returning jobs, making our city safer and decrease in serious violence, us watching our children return to school with a new mission and goal. All of these successes are going to be hampered by what we are about to experience with the 5% cut 3 times in a row, which is going to equal 15%, as well as just the infrastructure issue that's going to come with this crisis. We're about to potentially have to move women and children to sleep in congregate settings, outdoors, in tents. This is unacceptable. This is not what our city stands for.
Mayor, in response to your comments that the migrant crisis, quote, will destroy New York, here's a criticism from the left. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted that, quote, blaming immigrants for the crisis is not leadership, and added that the White House does need to step up. We have solutions. Alienating people isn't one of them. What's your response to those calling your message alienating?
Well, clearly, when you look at this city, this city is a city of immigrants. The difference in the historical role of those who came through Ellis Island. In 1 year, we had over 1 million that actually came through Ellis Island. What they were allowed to do, they were allowed to work. And I understand when you hear those on the far left that are stating how we're dividing the city. But the reality is I need for them to step up. I visited the Hercs. I spent the night in the Herc talking to asylum seekers. I know what it takes to govern this city, and I need them to do their job in Washington, D.C., and ensure that over a year and a half that New York City has carried this burden alone, like other cities. It is time for my national leaders to step up. I'm hoping that the Congresswoman will come in and walk through and see the conditions and how we cannot properly take care of those who are in these Hercs if we don't get the resources we.
AOC is not going to come in and talk to the people. She's not going to do that. You're talking about she needs to come in and talk to asylum seekers. She wants to, like she said to you, she's pointing the finger at you, and they assume that you didn't want to do your job. Stop complaining and do your job. That's what they're saying. And stop blaming the asylum seekers. They didn't do nothing to you. That's what basically she's saying. So you're complaining about, or they're complaining about what they voted for. They voted for you. Now you got to solve the problem on your own because you're the mayor. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. You don't need any help from AOC, even though she's a representative. You know, she represents, she's close to Washington. None of them people in Washington got immigration on their docket. That's on the back burner. And that's probably why they're going to lose the election too. That's one of the main reasons why Democrats will lose election, because of immigration.
We need, and it will potentially destroy this city if we don't get it right.
Mr. Mayor, pardon me, what is a HERC?
That's a humanitarian relief center. We have shelters that we create, over 200 shelters we have opened, and we also have created what's called humanitarian relief centers. Those are those large tents that you're seeing that's holding sometimes up to 1,000 people.
Mr. Mayor, as you are well aware, Monday marks 22 years since the terrorist attacks of September 11th. Any reflections on the anniversary and the nearly 3,000 lives lost?
Well, that was it for that. I'm not going to channel that because we're going live on September 11th, which is tomorrow, you know. Anyway, let me share you what they're saying on Twitter about not Brandon Johnson, but Eric Adams. Anna Navarro from The View. I think that was Anna Navarro. Or maybe that was AOC that I read. Anyway, Laverne Spicer, Eric Adams have had the nerve to say Trump Republicans created this mess, talking about his illegal problems. He's a goddamn liar. If y'all would have voted Trump, none of this would have been happening. Nobody was more aggressive about keeping the border closed than Donald J. Trump. Soon as he said he wanted to have closed the border, the media called him xenophobic. He tried to build a wall. Democrats stopped him. He created the Remain in the Mexico policy. Democrats howled. Democrats was telling us way back then they was part of illegal immigration. They was a party of illegal immigration. We just didn't realize they was planning to replace white and black people with third world refugees and criminals. If you voted for this asshole president, I ain't got no sympathy for your BS sanctuary city problems. Then she says, Eric Adams, go F yourself. This is from Laverne Spicer, and she's a Florida congresswoman. So she had some colorful words for him. AOC has some colorful words for him as well. If I could find hers.
Coming illegally, the cost, the burden, it's unfair. As I've said, we cannot as a country go on accepting countless millions of people. And that when it comes to those coming illegally, the cost, the burden, it's unfair, it's wrong. Well, have a look at this, because America's border crisis is worse than what we've got going on in the English Channel. And now, the mayor of New York City, and don't forget, he's a Democrat. Eric Adams is a Democrat. He's saying this.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10
city. The people that believe in open borders, the people like Mayor Khan, who say we can accept everybody, they are increasingly out of touch with where good, common sense people are. Am I right? For years I've said.
Yeah. So, people are starting to notice in other countries about this crisis. So, I mean, we could talk about immigration for the longest. Let me just share this. Now, this opinionated article is by Jahan Jones. He labeled the article. The title is Eric Adams Channels Trump in Diatribe About Migrants in New York City. The mayor's rant about migrants arriving in New York showed a side of him that helps explain how he earned the Black Trump moniker. I guess Eric Adams was a former Republican, a former police captain, parroting right-wing talking points and espousing conservative policies. And that's what led him to being labeled as the Black Trump. So, in the town hall meeting, we already know what he said. He said this is not sustainable. Adams said that every community in the city is going to be impacted by the arrivals, and he asked everyone in the room, how many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? Is going to come to your neighborhoods? I think he's just giving you a warning. He's going to still take care of people, but he's giving people a warning. And so AOC tweeted, choosing to gut public programs, favor big businesses, skyrocket rents, defunding schools to add another $5 billion in militarization, and then blaming immigrants for it is not leadership. Well, AOC, you're higher up. So if all this is happening in the state of New York, or you're in the seat to write these laws in power. You're in power. You have the power to write the law or whatever you want. But instead, you're blaming little old Eric Adams. He's the city mayor. You're a state representative. So if you don't like something, you need to be putting a bill on the docket. And she put, the White House does need to step up. We have solutions. Alienating people isn't one of them. What are the solutions, AOC? What are the solutions. And if we want to reduce the number of asylum seekers in general, we have to make U.S. foreign policy part of the conversation. No, you don't. You don't need to make foreign policy part of your conversation because this is Americans' land. This is America. They're part of the conversation. Matter of fact, they get funding. Venezuela and all these other countries get funding from America because of their immigration. And there's no systems of checks and balances with Venezuela. You just shelling out money to them. And they steady sending people over here. So what are you saying? Who gets to declare with authority what is truly destroying New York City? It is a finger-wagging mayor who appears to be returning the city to discriminatory surveillances and police state remnants of New York in the 90s. Or is it the migrants being demonized for pursuing the promise that has literally been ascribed near New York shore? Jahan Jones, you could tell he is a liberal nut job. Do you notice how quickly they will turn on you if you don't agree with every single thing about Democratic policies? They turn on you quickly. They start calling you names. And how dare you think differently than the whole tribe? That sounds ridiculous. But liberals need to wake up, especially Black liberals, because white liberals, you're just one step away getting kicked off the plantation because you got to follow every single rule that they have. Shannon Bartholomew, absolutely amazing. This is what you asked for. Didn't think it would ever happen, huh? Absolutely. He didn't think this was happening. So you got to deal with it. You got to deal with this problem. It's nobody else's problem. You got to deal with it. Just like Mary Brandon Johnson, deal with it. And you, more likely, you will not get reelected this year, especially if you deal with it wrong. You want it to be kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya, come over to New York City, kumbaya. And they sent Greg Abbott saying, okay, I'll send them over there. You got them. And now you're like, oh no, too much. No, they're keep on bringing them in. We're going to divide them up from all these other sanctuary cities. We're going to divide, spread the love. You get some immigrants. You get some immigrants. You get some immigrants. I'm telling you. Greg Abbott, he Oprah Winfrey to everybody. Like he even sent immigrants to Martha Vineyards. And I think they made a ruckus over there. I think that's what somebody put that in there in the chat. They made a ruckus at Martha Vineyard. Because you're not getting like people that's really being respectful. They probably heard, oh, COVID-19, the government in the U.S. giving out checks. You can get a PPP loan. And they was like, oh, let's go to the U.S., man. They give us welfare. They rolling in the dough. So what do you expect? That's why you see mostly men coming over. These young guys, these able-bodied guys are coming over in droves, and they fighting each other. You know, some of the gang rivals are coming in, and they fighting each other on U.S. soil, and then they getting disrespectful to the cops. You saw that what they wrote on the ground, talking about F the police in Spanish or whatever type of language it was. They put on in front of the police grounds, F the police. So they don't respect America. They probably running from some type of criminal charges in their foreign country. And then they want to suck up all the resources. Then they have the nerve saying, hey, we demand whatever. And they're not Americans. And meanwhile, your veteran is on the street. He can't get social services or any medical or health care. You got them living on the street. Veterans that fought for our country. Don't let me get started, you guys. They cannot claim asylum nor enter. Look it up. Well, they're here, Gina. Gina, they're here. What are you talking about? They can't claim asylum. They're here. They're letting them over here. I could give you an estimate. If we get about maybe 200 to 300,000 people a month coming in across the border, 3 times 12, you do the math. And it's probably more than that. So the last year and a half, we probably already got almost 8 million people over here. Girl saying typical Democrats to eat each other. Yeah, they do eat each other. They get mad because you don't agree to every single point. Instead of having a healthy debate, they want to consume you. Consume you. They want to consume you and swallow you. You know, it's just like, I just didn't agree on one point, and now you're saying what I'm saying. This is just ridiculous. Okay, that's enough about that story. Let's get on to talk about, let's see what my time is. I want to get on to talk about Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis. He's putting his foot down. He's drawing the line in the sand. He's saying to the hell no. Hell to the no on COVID mask mandates. He said the science is not sciencing. So why in the hell would I follow any of these mandates? And I agree with him. This is from Ron DeSantis. A reckoning is coming. Florida is the only state that launched a grand jury investigation into Big Pharma regarding mRNA shots under Operation Warp Speed and pushing the jabs on toddlers. You know, they just approved, well, they didn't just approve, it was several months ago. They have vaccinations available for babies 6 months and older. Okay. When I'm the president, the biomedical bureaucracy will be held responsible for the damage it's done. And this is talking about it. About the liberal brings COVID hysteria back because they are. Remember that clip yesterday was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? The guy saw the Trump sign. He driving in the car by himself outside, and he got a damn mask on. And he put his mask down to spit on somebody. Like, what insanity are you going through? And then when the cops showed up, they all had masks on, and you outside. Why the hell do you have a mask on? You are literally outside. You guys know what KN95 masks, like those heavy masks that they wear in the hospitals. Sometimes they wear it at, like, if you're at a plant, you know, that, or if you deal with insulation, you know, those type of things, so you won't get small particulate matter in your lungs. And you putting that on a baby. These people are nuts. Yeah.
The FDA and cash out in pharma. It's like a research in Maryland now imposing KN95 mask mandates on school children. Are you kidding me? We know that doesn't work. We know that's harmful. I can tell you in the state of Florida, we obviously fought back against all that when it was happening, but we've enacted permanent protections. You have a civil right as a Floridian to breathe clean air without someone telling you to put on a mask, whether it's your business you go into, whether it's a government agency, nothing, no mask mandates. No mandates on school children, no COVID vax mandates, and we've even banned gain-of-function research. I think part of the problem with this, Jesse, is a lot of these leftists, they think that these lockdown policies worked. They did not work. And nobody's been held accountable from Fauci on down. I've promised to bring a reckoning to CDC, NIH, FDA, all these agencies that lied to the American people repeatedly, because if we don't have a reckoning, if we don't have accountability, they are going to try to do it again. And that's exactly what you see in some of these jurisdictions around the country. We all have to rise up as Americans and just say no.
What would a DeSantis reckoning look like?
Well, first of all, you take something like an FDA. They're basically a subsidiary of Big Pharma. We're not going to allow people in the FDA to leave the FDA and cash out in pharma. It's like a revolving door. That's why you have them approving an mRNA vax for 6-month-old babies for COVID. There was no evidence to support that. They're doing it because of that relationship. We are going to clean house at places like the CDC. They didn't follow the science during COVID. They followed the narrative during COVID, and that was very, very destructive. So we will clean house with personnel. You're going to have people in with me, like my Surgeon General in Florida, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. You'll have people like Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford. These are people that were right about COVID from day one. They were pilloried by a very politicized scientific establishment, but they stood their ground, and they've been proving right. Those are the people that need to be in positions, not the political actors that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I think he's absolutely right on this one. Somebody needs to be held accountable, or they're going to do it again. They're going to totally do this stuff again. Talking about lock them down. Wear masks. COVID, you need to get your COVID vaccine. And if you don't get your COVID vaccine, you can't show up to work. That's why we have a teacher shortage. That's exactly why we have a military shortage, because you're trying to force people to take a vaccine and it's not even proven to be effective. Put a 1 in the chat if you've been keeping up with your boosters. Type a 1 in the chat if you got your COVID boosters. Anybody? A 1 in the chat. Did you get your COVID boosters? You got to get it every 4 or 5 months, I think it is. Just ridiculous. So, like I said, Ron DeSantis, he's on the right track as far as drawing a line in the sand, holding people accountable. I think you don't even need to be president to hold somebody accountable. People should launch a class action suit against the FDA, Fauci, the United States government. Can you sue the United States government? The NIH for lying to the American people, okay? Lying to the American people. Okay, so that's all I got to say about that. Our last story, you guys, this is going to be a quick live stream because, you know, the kids got to go to school tomorrow and I got to make dinner. So that's what I got going on. But I want to share this last story with you. Well, first, let's laugh at Kamala. This is all you got to do to get Black folks to vote Democrat. You got to be down with the people. Hey, I'm down. I'm down. I'm down for the people. Hey, go Kamala. Yeah, vote blue. Vote blue. I bet you every liberal Black lady that saw this like, girl, go get it, girl. She still got it. Kamala got my vote. This is nonsense. She had a party. She had a party. 50 years of hip hop party. And not to say Kamala didn't listen to rap. I'm not saying that. But come on now. You weren't doing this before. Did you invite any of the people? You are from California. Do you know Snoop Dogg? Do you know Ice Cube? Why they ain't at the party? You from California. Somebody to crip walk with you. You know, you weren't down really for the culture. You just acting like you down. And Black folks like, hey girl, my VP is down, girl. She vibrant thing. Hey, that the vibrant thing. And they gonna dance their way to the polls. And we're the only community that they pander this bullshit to. The only community. And we let them get away with it. Just like President Joe Biden said, you ain't Black. Which, you know, let me be truthful. When he said that, I really wasn't offended by that. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, people should have been offended by that. And then remember when Hillary was running, she had hot sauce in her bag. Like, you got some red hot sauce in your bag? Yeah, I carry this everywhere I go. We're the only community we allow this bullshit to happen. remember Biden, Joe Biden, he had a dashiki thing on and he's taking a knee. All them white folks. It was Joe Biden. It was Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. They got these dashikis on. I think those are called dashikis when they got the African print on them and they kneeling on one knee. Like, really? You taking a knee? You making a stance against justice and police brutality? Y'all don't remember that? Anyway, we the only fools allow this shit to happen to us. And somebody put a gif up. This was on Seinfeld. Elaine from Seinfeld, when they was there, everybody looking at her like, look at this girl, looking like she having a seizure. Anyway, that wasn't the story I wanted to share with you guys. I just thought that was funny. Marco says she danced for a big Willie's Willie. Mr. X, that's will get the black people to go vote blue. That's so true. Pure what? Like that matters. Okay. I don't know. Somebody's saying pure blood. I don't know what that means. I don't think nobody's pure blood these days, but anyway, let's get to this last story and I'm going to let you guys go for the evening. This is Representative. To me, this story sounds real sketchy. It sounds sketchy to me, but you guys, let me know if it sounds sketchy to you. I don't like it because when I saw her face, I'm thinking like blood when it dries up. Okay, put a 1 in the chat. Does this look like blood to you? She said her face was, I guess somebody pistol whipped her. This is a Representative Chawanne Burns. She's the second vice chair in Minnesota. But she's a rep in Congress in Minnesota. Minneapolis, Minnesota. She's a strong supporter of defund the police. And just the other day, she was walking in the driveway. She said, yesterday, my children and I were violently carjacked in the driveway of our home in Minneapolis. 4 very young men, all carrying guns, beat me violently down to the ground in front of our kids. The young men held our neighbors up at gunpoint when they ran over and tried to help me, all in broad daylight. Look at my face in this picture. This is the face of a mother who just had the shit beaten out of her. This is her face. She don't look like they probably hit her head, but I'm not trying to be, unsympathetic, but I'm questioning the blood on her face. But maybe it's a true account, but it seems kind of suspicious to me. And this is just my gut. This is the face of a mother who just listened to her 4-year-old daughter screaming nonstop, her 7-year-old son wailing for someone to come help because bad guys are murdering his mama in the backyard. Okay, so you were in the driveway. Driveway in the backyard? or usually the driveway is like on the side of the house. So I'm not for sure how that works. How do you get in the backyard? Her neighbors screaming in outrage. Why would you say her neighbors is screaming in outrage? All while being beaten with guns and kicks and fists. Where usually when you get hit in the face, if it hurts, you get lumped up pretty good. If they had guns, pistol whip you, but how can somebody beat you and hold a gun if, where did the struggle occur? I have a broken leg. So now not only you got a broken leg, but in your head, lacerations to your head, bruising and cuts all over my body. And I have rage. These men knew what they were doing. Well, are they very young men, or are you saying these were kids, teenagers? I have no doubt they have done this before, yet they are still on our streets. You don't believe in policing. You are a strong supporter of defunding the police. So that's why they're out on the streets. Then she says killing mothers. That's why they're out on the streets, killing mothers, giving babies psychological trauma that a lifetime of therapy cannot erase, with no hesitation and no remorse. But you're texting us this, you're writing this in the text, and you're saying they're killing people, but you're still alive to text this. A person that almost died from their trauma won't look like this. This just happened. And you was brave enough to, let me just take a photo and show them. Like I said, I've seen a lot of juice in my time. This looks like grapefruit juice or cranberry grape juice. I've seen a lot of cranberry grape juice. When blood dries up, it don't look like that. It doesn't have that plum looking, but maybe I'm wrong on that. That's why I said this story sounds suspicious. If you were beaten, you're standing. She's actually standing. You're standing with a broken leg. If somebody broke my leg, I'd still be laying on the ground. I'll take a picture of me laying on the ground like, look at me. And then you'll see grass on the ground like, Chawanne, was you laying on the ground? Yeah, my leg was broken. It sounds suspicious. This sounds suspicious. I am now part of the statistics. I was silent when I fought these men to save my life and my babies, and I won't be silent now. We need to get illegal guns off our streets. Catch these young people who are running wild, creating chaos across our city, and hold them in custody and prosecute them. You don't want them prosecuted because you don't want a police in your neighborhood. That's what happens when open season is available for criminals. Oh, no police? We got a police shortage. We just had a story about a month and a half ago, maybe less than a month ago, where a small town in Minnesota, the whole police force quit. And she went to the state and put an announcement out there. I'm saying the governor or that mayor of that town, saying we need more police. And they was like, well, we got a police shortage. They're like 300 men short in Minneapolis. all because of defunding the police. People are scared. After that George Floyd incident, and not to say that guy was right for standing on the guy's neck for 9 minutes. We're not saying he was right. But people are scared because they feel like, oh, shoot, if I fight back or if I stay complacent, I could lose my job and possibly go to jail. So what's the point of being a police officer? I mean, but you should operate in the law that's written. You know, you can't go out like you're Willie, what is it? Like it's the Wild Wild West. You can't do that. But I digress. She said, look at my face. Remember me. When you're thinking about supporting letting juveniles and young people out of custody to roam the streets, our streets, instead of holding them accountable for their actions. So she's admitting that they're juveniles. She's admitting that she used young men, but you know, they're juveniles. They probably was like 18, maybe 17, 16, but they beat her up. You could have been reading the obituary of me and my children today, but instead I'm here to write this. Look at my face. These criminals will not win. We need to take back our city. And this will not be the last you hear from me about this. Then she says, thank you to the incredible Minneapolis 4th Precinct officers. Oh, now you thanking the police? Mayor Frey, Chief O'Hara, paramedics, neighbors, friends, and the DFL family who all came to our aid during this terrifying experience. I'm so grateful for this community that wraps us in love. Why did she make this post? I have my own theory. I'm going to tell you my theory. Since Albuquerque, New Mexico, or the New Mexico mayor launched the 30-day unconstitutional no carry concealed weapons or no open carry weapons, unconstitutional. She took away your constitutional right if you're living in New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Since that was launched, they probably talked together. These people talk together. And now, I bet you, you guys mark this day. What is this time? September the 10th at 6:30. They're going to try to initiate some unconstitutional action in Minnesota. Now, put it in the chat. Can you open? I'm not from Minnesota. I'm not from Minnesota, but can you carry concealed weapons in Minnesota? I'm not for sure. I don't know. I'm not for sure. But can you carry concealed weapons in Minnesota? So I think it's going to go hand in hand. It's a whole political scheme just to try to take your political rights away, your constitutional rights away. Okay? Everybody's laughing at her. Everybody's laughing at this lady. You see how many laughs she got? Ha ha. 456 ha-has out of 559 just emojis, but 456 ahas. So a little bit more than that because they say and 450, so they list about 20 of them. So she got about 480 ha-has. That's what you get. Jeffrey saying no one should have this happen to them. Children present or otherwise. Not ever. Nevertheless, how could Miss Santanadian not see this coming concerning the efforts of her party If you fight for lawless state, lawlessness happens in the broad daylight. He sympathized, but he didn't sympathize. And Amy said, yeah, Jeff Krangle, they always think they're rich and live in the safe neighborhood. They think they're going to drive out of crime. But when you don't get any police officer nowhere, good or bad, you're not going to get help. It could never happen to me. She was okay with other moms and kids being assaulted. What did I tell you? I said this a long time ago. They okay, Cori Bush. We talked about Cori Bush. She want to defund the police while she has her private security around her. And she tells you whether you would rather me die. Well, what about me? I know I'm just a citizen, but I'm not important. She's only mad the violence she created got her this time. Everybody's saying basically the same thing. I feel sorry for you and your children, but you owe apology to hundreds of other people who experience similar hardships because of your insane political stance. Someone put, sometimes you have to lay in the bed you made. This is funny. Thankfully, we have a progressive DA in the district who would never convict troubled youth. And the details about the carjackers hasn't been divulged to avoid stereotyping. This is the way. You don't want to demonize the youth. And this wasn't mob-like action. This wasn't a gang. There was a group of young individuals collectively putting their mind together to carjack you. And since you put up resistance, so they pistol whip your ass. You don't want to demonize these kids. Instead of dismantling the police, this is what Sergio said. This is in quote, her statement. We are going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department. Say it with me. Dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department. That was June 2020. And now he put in quote, change of plans, September 2023. So, do you guys think this is a conspiracy theory? Is she's in cahoots with Albuquerque, New Mexico, or the governor in New Mexico, who just recently took away the right to carry a concealed weapon or open carry weapon in New Mexico because she enacted a public health order, executive order. And she said it's a public health safety for you, the illegal gun carrier, to have a weapon on your persons. All the while, a criminal can have a weapon. Open season. Open season. So that was it for our business talks today. You guys tune in once again tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate every single one of you for making my channel grow. It's really appreciative. And we're going to keep on talking about political stuff. Sometimes I do talk about business. I probably try to put some business stuff in there. But sometimes business get kind of boring. So I try to keep it interesting. But I love each and every one of you. Okay, so I'm sending all my good to you. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great evening.